You know, artificial intelligence is showing up everywhere these days. But what if I told you it's quietly entering one of the most personal, most profound decisions a family can ever make? Choosing an embryo. It's this incredible moment where cutting-edge tech meets the very, very beginning of life. And today, we're going to dive into what that all means.
It all boils down to this one question, doesn't it? A question that is just packed with so much hope, so much anxiety. You can feel the immense weight of it. It's what countless hopeful parents ask, often in a quiet room, as they look at the very beginnings of their future family. And for so many, this is not just some clinical choice on a checklist. No way. It's the culmination of a whole journey. And right there, at that critical fork in the road, a brand new voice is entering the conversation. And that voice belongs to an algorithm.
Okay, so let's set the stage. First, we really need to understand the high-stakes world that these algorithms are stepping into. I mean, just think about what's riding on this single decision. We're often talking about years of effort, a huge financial strain, and this deep, powerful emotional longing to have a child. It's this one single point where all of that hope and all of that uncertainty crash together. And you should know, this isn't happening in a vacuum. It's actually part of a much bigger trend. AI is kind of shifting gears, you see? It's moving beyond just diagnosing things and is now actively helping to guide these massive, life-altering decisions. A good example is a system called Star AI, which is already out there helping to identify the most viable sperm. So this is already happening. So how on earth does this tech actually work? What's going on behind the scenes? Well, let's head inside the lab and find out. At the heart of it all, we're talking about something called embryo-ranking AI. Basically, it's really smart software that uses machine learning to watch an embryo grow, analyzing its potential every step of the way. The goal? To predict which one has the best shot at a successful pregnancy and give that information to the human experts. Let's take a real system, one called CHLOE, to see how this works. It's pretty straightforward. First, time-lapse cameras are taking pictures constantly, basically creating a movie of the embryo's earliest moments. Next, the AI digs in, analyzing thousands of data points, things the human eye could never track, like the precise timing of cell division. And finally, it spits out a ranked list for the embryologist, essentially saying, hey, based on all my data, this one looks like the top contender. And I really want to stress this part. The technology is meant to be a tool. Think of it like a second set of super sharp digital eyes. The goal is not for the algorithm to make the final call, but to give the trained human expert even more information to work with. But you probably knew there was a but coming. When you introduce a tool this powerful, it's going to stir things up. And now we're facing a world of brand new, really complex questions, and not a lot of clear answers. And this leads us to a really tricky dilemma. Just picture this. An experienced embryologist, using their years of training, looks at the options and recommends embryo A. But then, the AI, after crunching all its data, ranks embryo B as number one. What do you do? This brings up two massive questions. First, which voice wins out? The human expert or the algorithm? And maybe even more important, if the choice doesn't lead to a successful pregnancy, who's accountable? The doctor, the clinic, the tech company that built the AI? All of a sudden, the lines of responsibility get really, really blurred. Here in the United States, the legal system is playing a frantic game of catch-up, and it's created a huge regulatory gap. There are no standard consent forms for using AI like this. The risks and limitations aren't always communicated clearly, and there's this really fuzzy line between what counts as decision support and what counts as medical advice. It leaves everyone from patients to clinics in a pretty uncertain position. And this complexity doesn't just stop at the US border. Fertility treatment is a global industry now, which means we have to try and navigate laws without borders. When you look internationally, it's a total patchwork of rules. For instance, Germany has a very strict Embryo Protection Act that might make AI ranking a legal no-go. In Canada, the existing consent laws just haven't been updated to deal with AI. And across Europe, data privacy laws like GDPR might come into play. But honestly, what that means for patients is still a big open question.
And this is where it can make your head spin. Think about this very real scenario. A French citizen uses an American AI tool at a US clinic and then ships their embryos to Spain for the transfer. If a legal issue comes up, which country's laws apply? France's? The US's? Spain's? The truth is, right now, nobody knows for sure.
So, with all this legal and ethical uncertainty, where do we go from here? let's talk about how we might navigate the future. The good news is, we aren't starting from absolute zero. We can look at other fields of medicine, like radiology or oncology, where courts are already dealing with AI, and they're asking the right questions. Did the doctors use the AI responsibly? Were patients even told an algorithm was involved? And did everyone truly understand the tool's limitations? We can take those lessons and apply them straight to fertility law. This raises the key questions the field is debating right now. Could a doctor be sued for relying too much on an AI? Could a clinic be held liable for not getting specific consent to use it? And what happens to the standard of care when a doctor decides to go against what the AI recommends? These are the debates shaping the future. You know, after all this talk of liability and data and regulation, it's so important to come back to a simple human truth. The families at the center of this, they're not thinking in algorithms. They're thinking in dreams. Dreams of passports for a family trip, of birth records, and of bedtime stories. And that leaves us all with this final critical question. As these powerful new technologies help us build families in new ways, the biggest challenge for all of us, for doctors, for lawyers, for parents, is to make sure we keep humanity and empathy and all of those dreams right at the very heart of the process. Thanks for joining us.